After more than 40 years' absence, the celebrated actor Jack Thompson returns to the stage this weekend, playing the part of first voice in the Dylan Thomas play Under Milkwood. It's a Sydney Theatre Company production, and this week ABC Arts reporter Anne Maria Nicholson caught up with Jack Thompson in between rehearsals at the Opera House.
Jack Thompson, you're playing in Under Milkwood, the narrator, one of the great pieces of theatre. How are you finding this work?
I'm finding it very exciting and very funny and very thrilling. We've had dress rehearsal, a couple of preview audiences, and they're laughing and they're clapping. It's fabulous.
It's quite astounding. It's more than 40 years since you've been back on the stage.
But that's scary.
And yet you've been around so much with movies and
yes.
TV and on radio. What is the sensation like? And I'm wondering why it's been so long.
It's been so long because I've been very much involved, as I'm sure you're aware and others, in the renaissance of an Australian film industry. When I started work as an actor, there was no film industry. And just as I started work as an actor, there began to be a renaissance of the Australian film industry, and I became and remain enthusiastically involved in that. The last thing I did was I played Claudius to John Gregg's Hamlet in a production for Sydney University. And Arnie Neeme directed, and he said, "When you went to film, Jack, it was a great loss to the theatre." And various people over the years have invited me back. I've wanted to come back on a couple of occasions, but what better way to return than in this beautiful piece, this extraordinary verse play, and here at the Sydney Opera House in the Drama Theatre. Wonderful. Time passes. Listen. Time passes, listen. Come closer now. Only you can hear the houses breathing in the streets, in the deep, salt, slow, black, bandaged night. Only you can see in the blinded bedrooms the combs and petticoats over the chairs, the jugs and basins, the glasses of teeth. Thou shalt not on the wall. And the yellowing dicky bird watching pictures of the dead.
And Dylan Thomas, this really has been the work that he's remembered for. But you had a connection with him through your family as a child.
I did. John Thompson, my father, worked at the BBC in London on an exchange program from ABC Radio. And John was a poet himself, and so he met this wonderful young poet, Dylan Thomas, and Dylan was reading a lot of his work and others on radio. John created a radio program in ABC Radio in Sydney called The Poet's Tongue, where Australian poets had their poetry read by actors on radio. So when Dylan Thomas passed away in '53, I remember it being a tragic event to our family.
So the sounds of this work, they've been with you nearly all of your life.
They've been with me nearly all my life. I remember when I first heard the first Richard Burton recording, but prior to that, I had heard the recording of Dylan Thomas himself reading first voice and the Reverend Eli Jenkins.
Now, this story, it's set in a little, almost a nondescript town in Wales, but do you think it could be anywhere?
Oh, it is anywhere. That's why it remains universally attractive. It could be a little town anywhere in this country. I don't think anyone who's ever been in a little town, even if only on holidays, would not recognise La Regab.
And he's played around, he's had a little trick with the title, hasn't he, of the town?
Oh yes, of course. La Regab spelt backwards. If you put this up to your mirror, you'll see it says bugger all.
So that was his joke?
That was one of his many jokes.
And of course it's got the Welsh spelling, the Welsh sounding name.
Yes, it's and it pronounced correctly in Welsh, it would be La Regab. Mr. and Mrs. Cherry Owen in their Donkey Street room, that is bedroom, parlour, kitchen and scullery, sit down to last night's supper of onions boiled in their overcoats and broth of spuds and bacon rind and leeks and bones.
See that smudge on the wall by the picture of Auntie Blossom? That's where you threw the sago. You only missed me by an inch.
Well, I always miss Auntie Blossom too.
Remember last night? In you reeled my boy, as drunk as a deacon, with a big wet bucket and a fish frail full of stout, and you looked at me and you said, God has come home. You said... And then over the bucket you went sprawling and bawling, and the floor was all flagons and eels.
Was I wounded?
Well, then you took off your trousers and said, does anybody want to fight? Oh, you old baboon.
Give us a kiss.
Jack, you're into your 70s now, and once upon a time reporters used to say, when are you going to retire? But of course the new question is, when are you going to Hollywood? I mean, Jackie Weaver.
Jackie's still here, but she goes and works in Hollywood. I've worked in quotes, Hollywood, of course, and come back here to live. I will always come back here to live.
But there are opportunities opening up, aren't there? It seems to. They're not.
Oh, yeah,
they're
more
not,
and more.
It's not contracting. It
No,
seems
it's
to
not.
be, in a digital world, there seems to be more opportunities.
There are more and more opportunities, and it's very interesting for an actor, of course, because as a young actor, the opportunities are there. The middle period, there are not so many roles. As you get older, there are fewer old actors and there are more roles.
So putting your toe back on the stage, does this mean we're going to see a lot more of you in theatre?
I suppose that depends on my reviews.
So, Jack Thompson, what is it that makes you get up every day and come to the theatre, go to the film set? You've been doing it for most of your life. What is it that keeps you going?
Life itself. The love of it. One of my father's lines was, life's crowning glory is the here and now, and we're here.
Jack Thompson, thank you very much for talking
Thank
to
you.
the ABC.
Thank you.